Addiction is defined as the quality or state of being addicted and a compulsive need and use of a habit-forming substance. When someone is called an addict, it usually means they can't stop drinking, smoking cigarettes, or using drugs. There is another category of addiction known as behavioral addiction. Behavioral addiction can be a video game, the internet, hoarding, sex, and in the case of Bill Kearney, gambling.
I am an ex-casino gambling degenerate. At the peak of my high, you could have came into the casino and stuck a gun to my head. I'd say, pull the trigger, I'm not leaving. I blew $20,000 in the Nugget. I took the limo from the Nugget over to Caesars, dropped another 20. I was living myself to 20 grand. Once I hit 20, I figured it's time to go try another joint. Blow another 20, I'm stuck like 60,000. I'm down to about 1,800, and then I start winning every hand. I'm getting sevens, and I'm splitting them. The dealer's got a 6, and I'm getting a 4 and a 3. I'm doubling down. I'm betting stacks. I cleaned out both cylinders of black. Now I'm working on the purples. I tell the dealer, color me up, baby. I'm out of here. So I'm looking at the chips, and I'm thinking to myself, what would happen if I caught that shoe again? I mean, I have like 90-something thousand here. Told the dealer to shuffle. I would say 2/3 into the shoe, I made my last $500 bet. Instead of being sick over the loss, I'm already making plans of going down the next day.
In J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit fantasy series, the characters who possess the One Ring display symptoms similar to that of the gambling addicts. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or DSM-4, is what mental health professionals use to diagnose and treat mental disorders. Out of the 10 possible signs or symptoms for compulsive gambling, 5 need to be present for a successful diagnosis. The first criteria is being preoccupied with gambling. For example, being preoccupied with reliving past gambling experiences, handicapping or planning the next venture, or thinking of ways to get money with which to gamble. The second criteria is a need to gamble with increasing amounts of money in order to achieve the desired excitement. Being preoccupied with gambling is when someone is obsessing about making bets all the time. The obsession often leads to the person making poor decisions so they can go gamble. In the case of Melanie Morgan, a former CBS News anchor who lost her job due to her poker addiction, she let her obsession cause her to make poor decisions up to and after her pregnancy.
Even her pregnancy did not stop Melanie from gambling.
Of course, I was in a terrible environment, smoke-filled rooms, hardly taking care of myself. Yeah, I was gambling right up until an hour before I gave birth.
After her son was born, she often left the infant with an assortment of babysitters.
Gollum was obsessed with the ring and was constantly preoccupied with it. In Tolkien's The Hobbit, he says, "And he was always going back to look at it, and still sometimes he put it on, when he could not bear to be parted from it any longer." In Peter Jackson's film, The Hobbit, Gollum shows just how obsessed he is when he realizes he doesn't have it after losing the riddle contest with Bilbo.
Where is it? Where is it? No! Ah! Where is it? No! Lost! Glasses and splashes! My precious is lost!
Gollum displayed both the first and second criteria with his behavior while in the cave under the mountain. He was preoccupied with the ring, and he had to use it when he could no longer stand being parted from it. Just like alcoholics who get an increase in tolerance and need larger amounts of alcohol to achieve the desired effect, compulsive gamblers need to increase the bet size to get their desired rush.
You think it's in the next spin, it's in the next spin. You know, it's coming closer, it's coming closer. But each time when you're putting $50 in the machine and playing 500 credits, like that doesn't go far. That's when I started up in stakes and putting in 100 at a time. And then playing, 200 to 500 credits, because I thought, well, it's ready to pay, it's ready to pay. I've reserved a machine after putting, say, $500 or $1,000 in. I've reserved it, bolted home, got more money because I thought, here it comes, it'll come within the next $100. So I'd go get another 500 or 1,000, and after that's gone, still haven't got the jackpot. And here I was saying, it's coming, it's coming.
Unsuccessful. I actually doubled my money. Actually, I got up to like 198, but ended up spending it back in the machine. Got greedy, started spending 150. spending $1.50 instead of 60 cents. I was playing 90 cents, and that's when I actually hit. So I'm out of here. That's pretty much it for me. I barely got enough gas to go home.
The third criteria for the compulsive gambler is the gambler has repeated unsuccessful attempts to control, cut back, or stop gambling. The fourth criteria is the gambler becomes restless or irritable when attempting to cut back or stop gambling. Once someone has crossed the line from casual gambler to compulsive gambler, quitting the obsession becomes more and more difficult.
All up, I gambled for 7 years. It's a very long time. And I think when I first worked out I had a problem, remember when I'd tell myself coming home from the club one night, you are not going to gamble, Annie. Tomorrow you are not going to gamble. You're not going anywhere near those machines. Don't go. You can't afford to lose anything. Do yourself a favour. Don't go. The next day I'd wake up and I'd go.
Every one of these women has relapsed at least once. Even after hitting bottom.
And after not gambling for 10 years.
Despite the fact you'd spent a year in prison.
That's right.
The definition of a relapse is the act of an instance of backsliding, worsening, or subsiding. It is also a reoccurrence of symptoms of a disease after a period of improvement. When a compulsive gambler relapses, it means they started to gamble again after a successful period of quitting. The best example of a relapse in the books and movies is when Frodo is just about to throw the ring into Mount Doom.
The ring is mine. No!
While trying to quit, compulsive gamblers oftentimes get angry and depressed when coming to terms with their addiction. Most think that the only relief is to go back and gamble again.
It becomes absolutely exhausting. It becomes draining. You suffer from panic attacks, anxiety attacks. What you think, because there's no ingestion of substances, you think that there's no physical, but there is. When you feel so worthless and you've got absolutely no control of your behavior, well, suicidal thoughts. That's a regular occurrence. You almost, at times, you just want it all to end.
When Gollum has the ring, he is happy and confident. When Frodo has the ring, Gollum is very irritable and restless.
Brute.
They stole me from us. Kill them. Kill them. Kill them both. Shh. Quiet. I said wake them. I said very not now. They knows. They suspect us.
The fifth criteria is the gambler using gambling as a way of escaping from problems or to relieve dysphoric moods such as feelings of helplessness, guilt, anxiety, or depression. The sixth criteria is the gambler lies to family members, therapists, or others to conceal the extent of involvement with gambling. Addicts of almost all kinds lack coping mechanisms to deal with reality, thus they use their addiction to escape reality.
Someone who's addicted to gambling will do anything to get their substance of choice, be it gambling. In this case, you'll lie, you'll steal, you'll defraud banks. You'll do anything you can to get money just so you can gamble. I found for myself, I realized I was a gambling addict when I was escaping life. I would just mindless hours at a slot machine just to escape what I'm going through on a day-to-day basis, just so I didn't have to feel anything, much like using drugs.
In the Fellowship of the Ring, Bilbo first uses the ring to escape the Shire. Later, Frodo uses the ring to literally escape from his problem, Boromir.
Oil, I am no thief. You are not yourself.
What chance do you think you have? They will find you. They will take the ring. And you will beg for death before the end. No! It is not yours, save by unhappy chance. It could have been mine. It should be mine. Give it to me! Give it to me!
No!
Give me the ring! No! I see your mind. You will take the ring to Sauron! You will betray us! You go to your death, and the death of us all! Curse you! Curse you! And all the halflings!
Compulsive gamblers usually find themselves lying to friends and family to conceal their problem. They lie about their losses, money they owe, and about where they are when they're off gambling. They oftentimes lie to themselves to stay in the state of denial as well.
When did you realize that he was gambling?
It first started when I was pregnant, and I got this letter from this woman saying, I hope Lena has survived the operation. And I'm reading this letter like, what operation? What is she talking about? What is this woman talking about? But I really need this 3,000 if you could return them. And then the landlady called me and she said, I realize you're giving birth, but you know, we haven't received the rent for 6 months.
In The Lord of the Rings, Bilbo unintentionally lies about the ring, showing his level of denial. And Gollum lies about his intentions to Sam and Frodo so he can get back the ring.
I'm leaving everything to him.
What about this ring of yours? Is that staying too?
Yes, yes. It's in an envelope over there on the mantelpiece. No. Wait, it's here in my pocket.
Precious will be ours. Once the hobbits are dead.
You treacherous little...
No!
My son! Leave him alone! I heard it from his own mouth. He means to murder us!
Never! Smeagol wouldn't hurt a fly! Ah! He's a horrid, fat hobbit who hates Smeagol, and you make some nasty lies!
The seventh criteria is the gambler has committed illegal acts such as forgery, fraud, theft, or embezzlement to finance gambling. The eighth criteria is the gambler has jeopardized or lost significant relationships, jobs, or educational or career opportunities because of gambling. Dr. Henrietta Jones explains how a compulsive gambler's morals can change in times of desperation.
Behave in ways they would never have thought possible in the past, and you see morally upright people ending up taking money in illegal ways from their relatives or from their employers.
I used to wake up like out of a nightmare, and my side of the bed would be soaking sweat, like, you know, just wet, just because I've been like sweating under that much stress. But no one else in the whole world knew what I was doing, and it was only myself, and I felt like so isolated. I really was desperate, and so I had to, I guess, utilize my position to access, you know, funds that I could access, you know, illegally, I guess. I remember figures of like 100,000, you know, 80,000, things like that. So it was a lot of money, you know, involved. The actual time in jail was about 8.5, 9 months, and then on work's release, which is you had to go to work and then you come back and you spend the rest of the time in jail. So, and that was another 9 months or so.
The best example of a character's morals being broken because of the ring is Smeagol when he first sees it.
My precious.
When somebody's suffering from problem gambling, the gambling has taken over their life. Gambling addiction can impact on people's home life, they can impact on their work environment, their productivity, and they can also impact on their capacity to be good parents.
Because of the lies, self-centeredness, and obsessions, the compulsive gambler oftentimes has problems maintaining relationships with friends, families, and acquaintances.
My wife had no idea. She wasn't ignorant. She wasn't stupid. She trusted me. The sheriff came to the door with handed her a writ. We have to write down what's in the home. We have to write down all the things because there's going to be a sheriff sale because I was being sued by the casinos. She was just a basket case by now. The following week, I was in the casino gambling, and she walked in. And she says, you got to come home. You got to get out of here. You have to come right now. The pit boys came over and I said, look, you got two things. Either I leave or you get her out of here. He says, that's your wife? I said, she could be a hooker. I don't know. Get her out of here.
Every character who possesses the ring in Middle-earth also develops relationship issues with their alliances, families, and friends.
I was there the day the strength of men failed. Isildur, hurry! Follow me. I led Isildur into the heart of Mount Doom, where the ring was forged, the one place it could be destroyed. Cast it into the fire! Destroy it! No. Isildur! It should have ended that day, but evil was allowed to endure.
I'm sorry I brought this upon you, my boy.
It's my task. Mine. My own.
Can't you hear yourself?
Don't you know who you sound like?
In comparison to gambling addiction, addiction to the ring meets 8 of the 10 criteria required, only 5 of which need to be met for a successful diagnosis. The missing 2 criteria for the compulsive gambler are directly related to money and not comparable to them.
There are different ways in which gambling is treated, but the latest research shows that cognitive behavioral therapy is the most effective way to treat people.
I no longer see a chance to win lots of money or to have control in an area of my life because I don't have control in other areas of my life.
So right here in San Francisco at Fiore.
And Melanie Morgan has a broadcast career again. She hasn't gambled in 14 years, but she knows it's just one day at a time.
One bet, that's all it takes, and I could instantly be back in that place that I was before.
Compulsive gamblers, like most other addicts, typically find a cure through abstinence and treatment programs like Gamblers Anonymous. While Frodo and Bilbo were still afflicted by the powers of the ring, after it was destroyed, abstinence was guaranteed.